Hi everyone. I'd like to take a minute and go over some things that now that we're in the couple of weeks of school might make more sense and help clarify maybe some confusion you might have. So my name is Dr. Pebble Johnson. I am new to River Trail Middle School. I love it here. The teachers are wonderful. The students are awesome. And so let's jump right in. We are for our practice grades using a 4-point scale, a standards-based grading scale. And so we start out and we have a game board. And on the game board, it'll make more sense when I show you a picture of it. Students have a path to take, and they can choose to go off the path and go back to the path. And so this first unit 0, we've kind of just got used to using the game board, using some of the terminology and that sort of thing. So if you're not familiar with a 4-point scale, getting a 4 on an activity means that you know it so well that you could go to another state, knock on someone's door and explain it to another person of your age group. You really got it. You're ready to teach everyone about it. Getting a 3 means that you've mastered it and you are ready for an assessment or a quiz. Now, if you score a 1 or a 2, it means you can revise that activity and return it in or redo it. A 2 means you just need a little more practice, a little rough on the edges, some fine tuning. 1, maybe you didn't complete it, maybe you're having trouble, and just ask for help, because I am more than willing to come into the morning and have a morning session with you. All you gotta do is ask for a morning pass, and if I'm available, I will be there. More than happy to help anyone in the morning. So let's talk about practice grades. Practice grades are only 10% of a student's overall grade. But these practice activities build to the unit test and the minor and the major grades. They're very important. They're the foundation for building content and building new ideas. So you'll be ready to be successful on the unit exam or test. The must-dos, should-dos, and aspire-tos are the 3 types of practice activities we'll have. The must-dos are things that each student must do. They're required. They're going to be worth 80% of a student's practice grade. Mastery is at 80%. So if you do all the must-dos and score 4, you will have an 80% on your practice grade. The should-dos are activities that students can do if they feel like they really understand the topic or they need a little more practice, they're ahead of the game and have some extra time, or they want a challenge. And so the should-dos are worth 15% of a student's overall grade, practice grade. They're not required. Students can choose to do them or not. The aspire to activities are worth 5% of a student's practice grades, and again, they're by student choice. They're not required. So if we look at a breakdown of the 4-point scale using these percentages, 80% of 4 is 3.2 points. So when I'm calculating the practice grade, a student can get 3.2 points out of their total practice grade from the must-dos. So here's an example of how that would be calculated. If a student's average on the must-dos is 1.82, you take that times 80%, and that gives them 1.46 out of 3.2 possible points. Their average is taken from all the must-dos that we have. And this adds up to their calculation. Sorry, this is a duplicated slide. So how do we convert that to the the traditional Infinite Campus grade? And so first we have to calculate what the student's grade is out of 4 points. So the must-dos, if they had a 1.82 average times 80% gives them a 1.46. Should-dos, 1.1 average times 15% gives them a 0.18 out of 0.6 possible. The aspire-tos, they have a 2 average times, this should say 5%, sorry, typo. Then it goes to 0.1% out of 0.2. And so their practice grade would be a 1.8 out of 4. Now, this data set here is a little skewed because, like I said, in Unit 0, we were kind of getting used to things. And I'll explain that when we actually look at the game board here in a second. So I take that 1.8 grade out of 4 in a standards-based system, and there's actually a table that you can convert that number to what you see in Infinite Campus. So you can see here over on the right here, I've clipped in part of that table. So this person's grade of a 1.8 out of 4 would be a 68%. In a traditional way of calculating grades, a 1.8 out of 4 would be less than 50%. Again, the focus is on mastery of standards and activities. Oh, I just said that. Whoop. Okay, so let's look at a game board. So at the game board, this is the one for Unit 0. And so students follow along the game board, and there's the key down here at the bottom in case they forget. They have suggested deadlines for activities to help keep them on pace so that they know if it's August 11 and they're still here, that so it's August 11 and they're still here, they know that they're a little behind. So they start out on the game board and they have to do all the things that have a solid box around them. Those are the must-dos. So they have to follow along the game piece, and it's self-paced. I record the PowerPoints so that students can watch them at their own pace, take notes as they need to, and not feel rushed. They can also take their activities home and work on them if they need to. And so they go along the game board, and so they follow along the game board. And then when we get over here, you can see that we have a lesson on SpongeBob safety. So the student can continue on the must-do game board, but if they feel like they're ahead, need a challenge, or need a little bit of extra help, they can go over and view off of the main game board and do some of the should-dos and the aspire-tos. Should-dos and aspire-tos are not required. So if it has a dash line, that's a should-do. If it has a dotted line up here, that is an aspire-to. And so students go along and they make sure that they do the must-dos. For the Unit 0, we were just getting used to using the game board. For Unit 1, students will have to stay on the game board before they can go over here to the should-dos and the must-dos. So for example, to be able to do the practice on scientific method should-dos, the student has to have completed the must-do for this part of the game board. Same thing for the aspire-to. The student has to have completed this part of the game board. When we get to the end of a lesson, there's a mastery check. This is their minor grade. It is going to be a short assessment of where they're at and how they did on the activities. The last few ones that we've taken have only been about 10 questions. These are not recoverable. These are minor grades, and so students need to make sure that they're doing the activities with fidelity, means they're invested in giving it their best shot. And then when they get to the end of the lesson, they take the mastery check. They have to complete this mastery check and the must-dos before they can go on to the next lesson. Now, in the event that a student is here and they take the mastery check, they don't have to wait for me to grade it. They can continue on to the next lesson. This is student self-paced, so if a student is absent one day, they know right where they need to pick up on the game board and know where they need to be to get caught up with the rest of the class. If a student scores a 1 or a 2 on an activity on the must-dos, they will have an opportunity to revise it and return it in to raise their grade to a 3 or a 4. So we chug along on the must-dos. Once we've done the game piece next to a should-do, we can go off the should-do and pick up that activity if we want to, and then go back. So that's kind of a breakdown of the game board. The students should have this in their binders. Their binders stay in the classroom. It helps keep us organized, keeps all their papers together. For example, if I know a student is absent, I can take the papers and put it in their binder for them. That way they'll have them the next day. If a student is behind and needs to take papers out, they absolutely can do that. They can take pages 5 through 10 out of their notebook if they need to, take them home, finish and work on them, just making sure that they bring them back, turn them in, and they end up back in their binder. This will also help when we get ready to study for exams and the end of the semester. So at the end of each unit, when I calculate the practice grade, I'm going to work on giving the students this printout. It serves 2 purposes. One, the students can check and make sure that my grades for the practice grades are accurate. Another reason is they can see where they can make improvements for the next unit. You can see that we have the must-dos, the mastery checks, the should-dos, and the aspire-tos. And so students have their grades on those activities. They also get them back on their papers. So these numbers shouldn't be a surprise to them. They can actually go through their game board if they wanted to and write their scores on the game board piece. That way they know what they've completed and haven't completed. They can gently cross out one if they wanted to as they go along. They can write on this game board. It's part of their notebook. So this page is going to be the last page in their notebook in each unit. And so they can actually take this page home and show it to you if you want to, so you can ask them to see their practice grade breakdown. And then it comes back and goes back in their binder as this last sheet in their notebook. When we take a test, we're always going to take time to look over the test, be reflective, see what we got wrong and maybe why we got it wrong. And so for Unit 0, we did this. And so students got a breakdown of the questions and the standards that we had on the test. Again, the focus is on mastering standards. And so a student got their test answer sheet back with what they missed, and they would go through and they'd say, okay, I got question 3 correct. Shade the yes in. I missed 7 and 8, and I got 14 right. They total that up. That means they got 2 out of the 4 questions for safety correct. To master it 80%, they need to get a 3. So they would click, no, I didn't master it. And the review activity for this, I didn't give it to them for the Unit 0. They do the same thing for the scientific method and the metrics. This is going to be part of the recovery process also. They are going to have to complete this part to be eligible for recovery. Recovery on major assessments is when a student scores below a 75%. They do a practice activities, and then they will take a retest over the same material and the same content, probably a shorter test, to reevaluate whether or not they have mastered those standards. We also will take time, and students will do this for every multiple choice question that they get wrong, especially for recovery. So they put the question they missed, the answer they chose, and they write that answer choice. They reflect on why they missed that answer, give some explanation, put in the correct answer. They will have to use their notes to find that correct answer and figure it out, rewrite the correct answer, give some more reflection, let me know where they're still confused, and then this will be stapled to their test analysis page. So that wraps up that part of what I wanted to talk to you about. The next thing I want to talk to you about is our lesson calendar. And so I am going to open up a team. And so I'm going to try to open up if it'll let me. No, it won't. I'm going to try to squeeze this in here to my record thing. Here is the lesson calendar, and I'm in the General tab. If you click on the lesson calendar, this is an interactive calendar for both you and students. And so let's say that I was absent last Thursday. I can either backtrack with this arrow and go to that day, or I can click the calendar, go back to Thursday, and the interactive calendar will pull me back to that week. Students can look at it in different ways. They can look at it as a week, a month, a day. They can also look at it as a list. So I'm going to go and I want to look at it by day, so I could click here, or I could also just click on the day that I was interested in. And so this pulls up the post for that day that I missed. And it has the information of that stuff that we did while I was missing. And so here it gives you an idea, the must-dos, the should-dos. I can't pull my screen down here far enough, but there's an agenda item, so it'll have when the test will be for them to put in their agenda and start organizing. There'll also be resources down here at the bottom, so if I find an interactive game online that would help them, or a video, I'm going to put that down here in the resources. And so that is there for both you and the students. You as the parent can see what we're doing. Let's go back and view to the week. These plans might change as class goes on. Let's say that we do an activity and we don't get quite as far as I wanted to. I can go in and change that and update that day's activity so students will know what we did and how far we got. Students can jump ahead, and I might not have gotten to this week, but they can jump ahead and usually see when the test date is. So they can go by week here, and here you can see that this here, or they can go by the month. And we can see down here the tests. And so as I get these filled in this next week, those will pop up there also. So as I work ahead, I'll try to get that in there as fast as I can. I hope this helps show you a few things about class. One more thing I want to show you in Teams is that each week I've been putting in, can I pull it up? No, let me go back to this week. A wrap up. And so students will have a wrap up of that week and what we did, so that they can go back and check, okay, I got this done, I need to do this, and make sure that they are on pace. So I hope this helps, and I'm excited to meet everybody at Curriculum Night.